Hi y'all, welcome to my channel. My name is Carrie and this is Now, for those of you who are new, welcome to my channel. I'm so excited to have you, and those of you returning, welcome back. You're probably wondering why this is not an unboxing, because let's be real, 90% of my content right now is unboxing. Well, guess what? Today is the day I am giving you guys a somewhat recommendations video. I am telling you guys what my beginning journey was to historical romance. Now, this is what started it all. This is what started me buying the big book lots and getting on Facebook and Craigslist and hunting for all these historical romances. By the way, I totally blame Jess at Peace Love Books for getting me on my historical romance kick. Just to let you know, it is all your fault, girl. Like, the reason why there's so many books in my house is because she got me to love them, and then I couldn't stop trying to find them, and then I ended up finding about a couple thousand of them. So that is the beginning of that. So Jess, yes, I'm totally blaming you, girl. But anyway, moving on from there. She's great. I love her. You need to check her out if you haven't yet. I'll link her channel down below. She's fabulous. But this is going to be more of how I started to love historical romance slash recommendations video. Now, if you guys have done historical romance before, if you guys are experts at historical romance, you guys will probably know all these recommendations. This video is not for you. I am new to historical romance. So if you want some good recs for historical romance, there's some really awesome booktubers out there. Jen from the Book Refuge, she reads like 500 books a year. She's phenomenal. My TBR hurts after watching one of her films. And she also did a beginners to historical romance as well. And then Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life also did a video of beginner historical romances. Or yes, if you're a beginner to historical romances, this is what you should read. I am doing a little spin on that. I am telling you guys what I did as my beginning for historical romance. So this was my beginner historical romance journey. So this is what I read that made me love the genre. Because I know it's kind of one where if you pop in at the wrong spot or if you get like an okay recommendation, I feel like you may not come back to it. So I wanted to give you guys my journey in the hopes that maybe it would work for you guys on how to get to historical romance. Just to let you guys know though, I might have to stop this film, so like the lighting will be different and stuff, because I am going to be doing the hashtag Bridgerton readathon, and our live show is like in an hour. So I might have to stop this video and then start it up again, and I'll tell you how it went. Yes, I'm hosting this week, so we will see how that goes. If we could get everybody on it all at once, it's victory right there. Like, we're having the standards real low at this point. So if we could get everybody on and it goes well, fingers crossed, I'll let you know how it goes. So I might have to stop this, do the readathon in the live show, and then come back to this. But yes, don't forget to, if you guys want to join us, everybody's welcome. DM me at any point in time if you want to join the Discord. But moving on. Okay, so my historical romance journey, how I loved historical romances. Okay, so I started a little bit differently. So I didn't go straight to the known authors, which I did right after these first authors. Like, I started actually with some, I want to say cleaner books, because I was hopping in from YA to fantasy, and then fantasy romance into kind of fantasy historicals, and then just straight into historicals. So fantasy was my gateway to almost everything. Like, it was amazing. I went from fantasy to romance to historicals to what else? Contemporary. Like, fantasy was my gateway. So if you love fantasy, this is where you want to be. Now, my first recommendation for you guys, it is a Christian author, And I just wanted to put it in there because this is kind of, I just stumbled upon her. I didn't even know she was this Christian author, but I wanted to put it out there for you guys. So this is the very first one. I'll move over because just in case they sometimes cover my face. But this is the very first one, The Healer's Apprentice by Melanie Dickerson. Now this is the very first one I ended up reading. So this one's really good for that whole fantasy romance genre, for the fact that one, it's a fairy tale retelling. So this is a fairy tale retelling, and I love fairy tale retellings. So the very first one, which this is, it's actually a Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, it's a Sleeping Beauty retelling. We have our main heroine, Rose, and she is a healer, and she ends up nursing our main Duke back to health. If she doesn't succeed in her task, she's going to be sent home to be kind of married to somebody else, and she doesn't want to do that. That's kind of the premise to the story. The reason why I really loved Melanie Dickerson is because she has that awesome way, not only bringing historicals into it, she has that fairy tale element to it that I absolutely adore. I think the first one's Sleeping Beauty. The second one is Beauty and the Beast. The third one's Snow White. Like, she definitely goes along. She gets all the way to Milan, and they just get better and better. The way she wrote him is just so beautiful. I absolutely adore her. So, and it is a clean read. So this is something that if you aren't into a bunch of heavier, steamier scenes, this is a clean read, but as the recommendations go on, the recommendations do get steamier. So that's my first one that ended up where it was retelling plus an historical, and they kind of lumped it together for me, and that's kind of where I started. So the second one was An Uncertain Choice by Jody Henland. Now this one was really, really good. I absolutely adored it. I actually got this recommendation from Jess at Peace Love Books. It was kind of like she had showed it on her channel and I was kind of interested in it, but I know the premise was really spectacular. All 4 books were really, really good. Okay, so we start off with our main heroine, Rosemary, which is funny because the last one was Rose. But we start off with our main heroine, Rosemary. And her parents had promised, I don't know who they had promised since birth, that she would become a nun. So she is under the impression that she is going to become a nun once she turns 18. Well, a friend of the family ends up coming and letting Rosemary know that in her parents' will, there was a second choice. Now, she can either become a nun at 18 or be married before her 18th birthday. And the uncle comes with 3 choices for her if she would like not to become a nun, if she would like to get married. He did end up coming with 3 knights that she can choose from. So this one was so adorable. It was so cute. I absolutely adored it. It also is a Christian fiction. So just to let you guys know, so that would be the first and the second one, and then the others are just fiction. But I wanted to put that out there for you guys. But all 4 books in the series are awesome. This 2 suitors she ends up not choosing. I think their books are 2nd and 3rd book. And then the 4th book is one of the, I can't remember the heroine's name, but she's really cool. I think she has a bow and arrow. It just is a lot of fun. The whole series is great. There was one of the books, I'll put it right here. She ends up wearing gloves the whole time, and there's a reason why she's wearing gloves. I mean, it's just really good. I absolutely adore the series. Both these series I ended up giving 5 stars to. So we have this as the second kind of introduction to historical romance. The next one I ended up reading is Sarah MacLean, A Rogue by Any Other Name. And just to let you guys know, this one has been my favorite, my all-time favorite historical romance. And I think it's because it didn't get the highest rating on Goodreads. So I'm just gonna throw it out there. But I think it's because it really introduced me to the genre, and Sarah MacLean will always hold a special place in my heart. So, I mean, it's just getting that a first, like, initial glimpse into it, and then just from there I just went on a rocket and just started reading as much of a historical romance I could get my hands on, which I'll talk about that. But this is great. This follows a duke, and the very start just hooks you. It just hooks you. You literally follow this duke, and he's in a card game, and he ends up losing his entire fortune. Like, it's just gone. But it's just so good. I don't want to tell you anymore because I mean, literally, that's kind of the start of it. And then we have our main heroine, Penelope. And Penelope is kind of like on the verge of becoming, like, she's been out a couple seasons and people have passed her up. So now her father had an idea. He ended up putting land attached to Penelope's name. And now she has become a hot commodity. So that's how this kind of begins. It is so good. Let me just show you the step back because I'm going to just gush about it. Look how amazing that is. So good. I love this whole book. The premise of the book, it was just so good. 5 stars all the way. This is the first one in the series. The second one in the series is right here. It follows our man Chase, and I love Chase. Chase is really good. But one good earl deserves a lover. So good. I absolutely adored this. Then we have No Good Duke Goes Unpunished, which is also very, very good. I think he is the fighter of the group. I think he's the one that is, it's like not like a MMA fighter type thing, but historical romance style. So that's kind of for this one. And then our very last one is our lady heroine, who is a bad, and this one is Never Judge a Lady by its cover. And you could just tell she's so cool. If I was being written as a heroine, this is how I'd want to be written, bottom line. But here, let me show you this step back too. It was definitely, like, if you have to ask me which book you like best in the series, obviously I do kind of favor the first one because I read it first, but all of them were amazing, especially her spinoff. She did a spinoff, and I don't know if you guys have ever read like any fantasy, but the very first one in the spinoff, I forgot the title. I'm gonna put it right here. It reminds me so much of Six of Crows. I mean, it literally, like, if you know Six of Crows and Kaz Bleecker, this guy, the hero in this, reminds me so much of Six of Crows, and hence why maybe it transitioned so well for me is because some of the heroes I liked in my fantasy is heroes that kind of remind me of these heroes in my historicals. So maybe that's why I transitioned so well. Okay, so after this, I'm gonna hold up the next one, wherever that may be. Actually, I need to go grab it. Let me go grab it real fast, hold on. Then after that series, I know this is not the correct one, but I ended up getting into Kerrigan Byrne. And this is her How to Love a Duke in 10 Days, which, by the way, this one was absolutely fabulous. Everything I read by Kerrigan Byrne, for some reason, is all 5 stars. I'm literally like blown away with all her books. I mean, they're so amazing. This one does have a trigger warning for sexual abuse. So just keep that in mind, you guys, going into this one. In the first 2 minutes, I have definitely a big trigger for anything that has to do with rape. I am not good with that. I don't like reading stories about that. Women that are being abused, I can't. I have a big problem reading about that. So when I walked into this not knowing that, I literally started this book at midnight, and I ended up reading this book, no joke, I think it was till like 5 a.m. in the morning, because I couldn't leave it like that. I could not. For me, it was just, I just can't. But just to keep that in mind when you guys are reading this, with that being said, it is amazing. It is such a good story. So just keep that in mind for this one. But I ended up starting with The Highwayman, and I'll put that right here. Okay, sorry if you guys get kind of a little bit of a movement. I put you guys on the table with me today because I'm stacking things on this table, and I haven't quite figured out yet, like, maybe I should not keep you guys on the table. I don't know. So if you guys get a little movement in the video, it's because you guys are on the table with me, and I'll figure that out later, guys. But moving on from there, so yeah, I started with the Kerrigan Byrne Highwayman series right here. It is definitely a 5-star read. It's just such an incredible series. There's probably about 8 books in this series. It's gonna be 8 or 9 books. I know she's doing a spinoff to this, but with that being said, I'm gonna try to tell you as much as I can about this. So what I remember from this is we have our main hero, Dorian Blackwell, and he has been wronged. Like this, something has happened in his life to where he is out for revenge. He ends up going after our main heroine, and he ends up taking our main heroine and whisking her away to Scotland. Unfortunately for our main heroine, she ends up becoming in trouble, and she ends up needing Dorian's protection. So she either has two choices. She could either marry Dorian or and give Dorian her secrets, or she has to face the consequences, and she's in a lot of trouble. So that's kind of where the story begins, but it is a 5 stars. All the books are 5 stars, I believe, in this series. All of them are fabulous. I absolutely adored them. Moving on to the next thing I ended up reading for historical romance. Okay, the next author I ended up reading was Tessa Dare. Now, I did not read this book. I'm sorry. I'm throwing up books and I'm like, it's not this book. It was the other book. I don't have physical copies of these books, but I will put it right here. And it was The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. And this one is so funny. I ended up doing a reread with my girl Heather, and I'm going to put her Instagram page down below. But we did this for a book club, and I read it before because this was my like beginner journey to historical romance, but I did a reread with her, and I forgot how hilarious this was. We have our main duke, Lord Ashbury, and it really starts off with our main heroine walking into his office or library or wherever he ends up conducting work in a wedding dress. And she's like, just to let you know, your bride has not paid for this dress and I need payment for this dress. And it just literally just starts off from there. We've got our gruff, scarred hero. We've got our heroine who is very sassy. And the whole thing is hilarious. Like, I laughed out loud, no joke, probably 3 or 4 times in this book. I mean, and just to let you guys know, this series is wrapping up, I think, the beginning of next year, maybe around March or April. I'm trying to get you know what? I'm going to put the exact date right here for the last book, but then all 4 books are out. I mean, this series is so adorable. I absolutely loved it. And it just made me love historical romance that much more because you got that witty humor. And if you are a contemporary reader, I feel like this is going to transition really well for you because you have that banter between the characters. Because I feel like with some historical romances, I feel like if you like a certain genre, and Jen talked about this in her video, if you like a certain genre, it's really helpful to have stuff that you can relate to that book. So with fantasy, I like running into things that have a fantasy element in them in my historical romances. But if you like contemporary, you like that witty, banterous, humorous kind of banter going back and forth, and I get that. So this would be one definitely for you that you would probably want to read. So that's Tessa Dare. I absolutely love her as an author. I don't think I've read anything by her that I didn't like, so that's a good sign. So moving on to the next recommendation. The next one I ended up reading was the Guardian series by Margaret Mallory, and these were so good. I'm just going to give you a little snippet of it. You start off with our prelogue, and our prelogue starts off with the 4 warriors, and they end up going to see the seer. And the seer gives them a prediction, like 4 different predictions, and each one plays out in each one of the books very differently. And I loved that. So you have your fantasy element of a seer and Scottish warriors, and they're finding their spouses in different ways, and I just love that. So that's kind of the start to it. I definitely recommend the whole series, 5 stars all the way. So that was kind of like the next thing I had stumbled upon for historical romance. Next we have In Bed with a Highlander by Myra Banks, and you know what? This one is so amazing. We follow 3 brothers, just 3 of our McCabe brothers, and honestly, I just love this whole series so much. I guess I could explain the first one to you because I've been doing that the whole time. So our first one starts off with our main heroine, Marin. And Marin is in hiding. She's in hiding because people have been searching for her whole life. Because she is I think a cousin to the king or something, to where she has a dowry everybody is searching for and everybody wants. Well, someone ends up finding her and stealing her away. So she ends up being stolen away. That's kind of the start to that. I could keep going with the whole story, but it's really, really good. It definitely has that suspense, that intrigue. I love the McCabe brothers. They are my favorite. I absolutely adored them. 5 stars all the way. I guess I could stop saying that, because let's be honest, if I'm talking about these books and I ended up loving historical romance, all these books to me were 5 stars. I don't think I rated any of them 4 stars, but I'll let you know. How about I'll do that? I'll let you know if they ended up being 4 stars. I think I only have a few more to recommend, and then I kind of just flourished from there. I ended up going everywhere after that. So the next one I ended up doing was If You Dare by Cressley Cole. Oh my gosh. Again, 3 brothers, you know. I love the aspect of siblings. I think Susan Enoch, I think is her name. She ends up doing, I think it was, what was it? She ends up doing a series where it's also 3 brothers, but I love that type of thing. Anything that has like multiple siblings in it. I mean, with me in the Bridgerton series, like I love reading about multiple siblings and how they have to like interact and correspond together. Okay, I'm totally getting off topic here. But yes, this book is really, really good. We start off with our main heroine, Anna. I'm just gonna call her Anna. And she ends up being captured by our main hero, Court. And because Court is in this war and he's trying to survive the whole being betrayed, and it just gets into a lot of like politics and war. But I mean, at the end of the day, he ends up holding Anna captive, and it's pretty much where it begins. It's really good. I absolutely adore this story. I love hearing about the other 2 brothers too. I highly recommend this. But yes, that was the next one in my historical romance journey. I really do love the 3rd one the best, because it gives that vibe of a very scarred brother. I absolutely adored it. But yes, these were amazing. We have Cara Marie Moning, and this is Beyond the Highland Mist. And for me, this one was amazing. Especially if you like paranormal romance, this is a really good transition from paranormal into historical. You have that time traveling element of our main heroine starts off in the future, something ends up happening and she ends up being boosted to the past of the 1800s, and her and our main hero Hawk have to figure out a way to get her back to where she needs to be. That's kind of the premise to the story of where it starts, but they are amazing. I love her when she did Time Traveler series. I have to say, for this author, this is my favorite series from her. A lot of people would debate the other one is better, but for me, I just resonated better with me. I really like that time traveling element to it. It was really good. It was well written. I definitely didn't get confused on like where they were, what time period they were in. It was really sweet, and I really did enjoy the romance to this historical romance. And the very last recommendation I have for you guys is my absolute fave, This Earl of Mine by Kate Bateman. You guys, this freaking book. Yes, I pulled it out. I pulled out the freaking. Okay, just to let you know, this was amazing. This was amazing. This was amazing, which is book 2 in the series. And book 3, that's already out, I think, is really good too. But these 2 were 5 stars. The 3rd one was like 4.3, 4.4 stars for me. So the first 2 started off amazing, and then the 3rd one was good. It was good, but it wasn't as good. Like, you know how it is when you have a 5 star, you've got to like meet that standard. And if you're not meeting the standard, you don't get to be 5 stars. But this one starts out with our main heroine, and she needs to get married. Bottom line, she needs to get married. So her thought is to go marry someone on death row, and someone that she ends up marrying ends up passing away, and then she could be a widow. Unfortunately for her, the person she ends up getting married to may or may not be someone who is going to die. She ends up not dying, and she has to deal with that. So that's kind of the start to this book. It is so funny. I laughed out loud. Like, it was so good. I just blown my mind. Like, so good. And then the second one ends up being about a person who heists. It's like a heist. So like an Ocean 11 type thing. Both of these were amazing. I highly recommend them. Kate Bateman is a new to me author, and I just adore her. She's so good. I absolutely loved her. But yes, that was the start to my historical romance journey. I think for people starting with historical romance, my only advice I'd probably give is stick to newer historical romance books. And this is why. Because of course I've read Julie Garwood. Of course I've read Susan Enoch. And I hope I'm saying her last name correctly, because I am famous for mispronouncing authors' names. I'm famous for it. My husband laughs at me all the time, but in a fun, sweet kind of way. But honestly, it's one of those things where I think with historical romance, definitely walk into it going with newer historical romance books, because I feel like they are writing for this time period historically, if that makes sense. Like, they almost know the banter you're looking for. They almost kind of understand what writing is today, and they're just taking it and putting it in like an historical setting, which I appreciate, because then eventually, once you get used to historical romances, you could definitely venture out to older authors, and that's what I'm doing at this point. I've got my historical base, which I know I love historical romance, and then I'm venturing out into older authors. So I'm giving Lisa Kleypas a try, which she's not really like an older historical romance author. I need to pick someone who is an older historical romance author, like Mary Balogh, you know, and I'm sure I said her last name, Balogh. I'm pretty sure I said her last name wrong, but yeah. So I'm giving her a try, and she's also known as Eloisa James. I had no idea. I learned that the other day. Also, yeah. So I'm also venturing out into other older authors that have been writing this kind of historical romance genre for a really long time. Like, I've finally picked up Julia Quinn. So yeah, I mean, I finally got around to reading her Bridgerton series, and I'm enjoying it, but I'm gonna let you guys know, I probably would not have appreciated it as much when I started as much as I do now. So I am really excited to get into historicals and start with just finding new authors and telling you guys about them. But yeah, this was my beginner's journey to historical romance. I hope that helps some of you fantasy readers, some of you contemporary readers, people who want to give historical a try and aren't really sure where to start. So I feel like historical has hundreds of authors. So if you just go down like the romance aisle and pick one up, it's probably harder to decide, like, oh, well, I like this. Oh, is this the second in the series? Oh, which way should I go? So the authors I recommended, I highly recommend. So anyways, I hope you guys all are having a fab day. I'm gonna go jump on my Bridgerton live stream right now and see how everybody's doing with Bridgerton readathon. And as always, I hope you guys have a fab day, and we'll talk soon. Bye, guys.